good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. This is the first of the conversaciones, I hope I said that almost right, at the festival this year, where we like to talk about cinema and the business of cinema, and we're so thrilled you're here for this one. Do check out the others in this series, because we always have amazing guests. My name is Wendy Mitchell. I'm a delegado of the festival, and I'm really thrilled to welcome our guests today. We have Harris Dickinson and Archie Pearch.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello.
And as you probably have noticed, you have not seen their film yet, Urchin, because it plays tonight, here, I believe. Yes, 7 p.m. I hope some of you have tickets. But I just want to reassure you, we're not going to ruin the experience of watching that film, Urchin, tonight. Instead, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about their careers and how they've found each other as producing partners, and what it's really like to start an independent production company these days when you're not necessarily born from wealth or nepotism and your dad was a producer and they just hand you a company, because that's what also can happen. But they have a new production company called Devisio. Am I saying it right?
You are, yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's based in the UK, also has a US office. Their first production is Urchin, which I mentioned you have to see tonight. It's an absolutely brilliant film, and I can't wait for you all to see it, and I'm not going to ruin it, as I said. This is Harris's directorial feature debut. He had done some shorts before. And you also know Harris, I think, as an actor, Triangle of Sadness, Baby Girl, Scrapper, Iron Claw, and starting it all off with Beach Rats. I love that film. Just to mention, I think you will all know, we have Basque and Spanish live translation going on, so when we do open up for questions, feel free to speak in your native tongue, and we'll listen on the translation up here. But I'm going to start the conversation. Do you have a meet cute story? How did you meet, and what clicked? Why? You know, because it is almost like a creative marriage when you start a production company with somebody. You really have to sort of see the world in a similar way, or in a similar enough way that you can talk to each other about it. So yeah, were you introduced? How did you meet? So when did you meet? And why was there a spark?
Yeah, go on.
I think it was around 9 years ago. I was at Working Title at the time, working with a producer called Chris Clark. We were introduced by a friend of a friend, and I remember our meeting. It was in Soho, and yeah, I was a bit nervous to start with. I was like, I don't know who this guy is. I'd seen his film, and you know, I knew that he had a short film on the horizon, so we kind of led with that. But you know, I think straight away, I think we spoke for some time, and then
I think you were making stuff on your own outside of assisting a major producer. So I got recommended to Archie when I wrote my short. Someone I knew was like, okay, there's only one producer I would ever recommend, and it was Archie. And then I was kind of like, how do you find the time to produce things while you also have a full position at a production company, assisting, you know, one of the biggest production companies in the world, if not the UK. So I was kind of like impressed by his work ethic. I think that was my first thing. I was like, okay, this guy is hungry. You know, he's like really passionate about this, and there's no doubt that this is his everything. And that was for me like something I share too. So I think that was one of the things where I was like, oh yeah, we both really want to do this, and we'll sort of do anything to make it happen.
And Archie, maybe tell us a little bit about you mentioned Working Title, but then you were also working for David Heyman, who, for people who don't know, did, huge films, and Paddington and all.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter is a good one.
Wonka.
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, yeah.
Okay, yeah, a few better ones to mention
Small
there.
films. But
Yes, you might have seen some of those. I mean, were you drawn to maybe stick with that of working on Barbie for the rest of your life, or why did you want to do Urchin after Barbie, you know?
Yeah, I think I mean I started my career at NFTS, where I did production management.
National Film and TV School
National
in the
Film and
UK.
Television School.
Best film school in the UK. Yeah.
Thank you. And then shortly after went to Working Title, where I was assisting freelance producers there. And then I felt like I wanted to have a sort of like step up in a way. And David reached out and said that he'd been recommended that he'd meet me. And I met him, and kind of we hit it off straight away, and I worked for him all the way from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood all the way through to Barbie. And I think, you know, for me, the experience working with David was absolutely incredible, and he really took me through the trenches, and I've learned so much from him. But I sort of just got to the point where I just wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell stories that, you know, felt really important for me. And, you know, every day waking up and being able to lead the creative rather than sort of working on the creative with someone else is really important. So, yeah, I think the transition from David being my final... I always kind of saw David being my final working for someone.
Okay.
And then transitioning into now running my own company.
Okay. And Harris, as I mentioned, some of the acting credits. So you've been acting for a while, but had you always, I probably shouldn't use this word, been messing around with like shooting little, you know, surfing videos or skateboard videos or stuff like that? Had you sort of have filmmaker genes in you more than just the acting?
Yeah, I think I probably thought that I was going to be a camera operator. To be totally honest, I was shooting skateboard videos. I was shooting sort of sketch shows that I would upload every week to YouTube as a kid, and then I thought, well, I don't know exactly what positions are available within film. I obviously knew director, writer, editor, but I was, you know, as a kid I was doing them all.
Yeah.
I was with me and one friend, and then, you know, so I didn't necessarily know exactly where I wanted to be or what I was capable of or what was possible, and so I just did it without any real consideration. And then I got to an age in my like early teens where I started to make more considered like dramatic stuff as a kid, but were obviously like quite lofty themes for 13, 14-year-olds.
I want to see those. Yeah.
You don't, but nonetheless,
I'll send you them, Wendy. Don't worry.
They were like my. I think, I don't know. They gave me the permission to feel like that was it. And then acting came along a bit later, and almost offered more.
More immediate.
Yeah, like I was doing
guess.
theatre, and then I started to get auditions, and so it was that simultaneously with me working on sets as a runner, as a second AC, assistant camera operator, doing like unpaid work in.
Were those on
commercial
sort of
world.
bigger sets, or were those short films?
No, it was like
films?
short films and some music video, a documentary, and then I left college. So I was doing that simultaneously whilst I was auditioning. Okay. And then as I got Beach Rats, I was 19, 20, and of course you know, that takes over, and I wasn't going to try and put the brakes on that in order to go and back to making my videos. So I think I just carried on writing on the side, and then when I got to like 21, 22 is when I decided I needed to make my short film, and Rose Garnett at the time was working at BBC Films, and she met us and commissioned that short, and then that was really the sort of...
So Archie, you produced that short?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So you had that you sort of produced that short, and then you set up Devisio? Or was Devisio kind of soft setting up while that
Yeah, I
short
mean, we
was
produced the
happening?
short, and then I was producing shorts all the way during my time of assisting, and then I think about, it was 2021, as we were sort of like getting closer to this film, Urchin, it made sense for us to set something up.
Archie was sort of in the process of setting a company up, and for me it felt like I wanted to work with him I knew that once I'd done the short with him, it felt like, I want to do this again with you. Okay. And I felt very safe, protected, inspired, and then it was like, okay, how can we keep doing this not just with me, but with other people as well. So I was like, can I come on the journey with you?
And what were some of those early creative conversations like? Less on the sort of logistics of how are we going to make this film and what do we believe in style of making a film, but, you know, did you both sit down and sort of have a love of Ozu or Almodovar or some common touchstones of how you wanted to talk about the kind of cinema you thought you wanted to make? How were those, or maybe that's hard to sum up, but how did you know you were sort of kindred cinema spirits?
Well, I think we just had a shared taste. I think we often agree on what we're into, and when we don't, we have interesting conversations about it. I mean, I don't think it's anything really more complicated than that. I mean, it was clear when we were talking about what films inspired me, and it was clear when Archie was sort of, our comps were very similar, and it was just obvious that we were aligned in that sense. But yeah, I don't think it's really any more complicated than that, you know.
And what about a shared approach to how you've got a story you want to tell, and then how you enable that, like the kinds of crew you want to hire, Urchin. I remember when we first started talking about it, there was so much misinformation about it because you never did this sort of huge, big announcement. Hey, we're shooting in East London tomorrow, and Frank Delane is starring, and here's the exact story. You sort of flew under the radar a bit. I mean, is that something you hope you can do? Again, it will depend on the scale of the film, but just, I guess, the approach to the actual productions and the company ethos a bit, and who you work with and how you want to work.
Wow, there's a lot in there. I think to your first point about, you know, the crew, I think every project is totally different, and every project is at a different scale. Like we've got smaller, working with first-time filmmakers that are more emerging, so second-time filmmakers all the way through to more established. And I think every film and project is totally unique, and we have a different approach. But I think, you know, especially around those key heads of department and the creatives, that we really want to strive for the best, and to really work with people that, and to create like a sense of, we've always spoken about like a sort of sense of family. And I think definitely on Urchin, there felt like a very safe space. And it was very collaborative, and yeah, we were a family for 6 weeks. And I think that's what really helps get the best out of the film, and everyone really on board, everyone really giving it 110%. So I think sort of Urchin is a perfect example there, where, you know, that sentiment of just being that family through every project that we want to do.
Yeah, and I think it's not a given either. Like to have that atmosphere on a set is something you have to work for and earn. And I think that our film, regardless of the outcome, I think that it kind of speaks for itself in the sense that everyone felt like everyone was so invested in it, and everyone loved each other, and there was no bullying, there was no unnecessary conflict. Everyone was supported, and we pushed it, and it wasn't like we weren't aiming high and pushing everyone, but it really did feel like everyone finished that film and enjoyed it and was proud of their work, their respective work as well, you know.
Nothing was the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Like we're very, and we say this to ourselves, it's like, if we feel something, or we're just very honest with each other. And I think honesty is important through everything that we do as well.
Yeah.
So Devisio now, you've got a slate of at least 20 things that could happen. This is kind of what you have to do as a production company. And I'm just curious if you don't have to reveal, exclusive news here in this format, but can you tell us a little bit, is that solely film? Is that also TV? Is that big established names? Is that UK and US only? Would you like some Spanish films in that mix? Or
yeah. I mean, I think we've got a lot on our slate, but also it's, as I said just a minute ago, it's very broad. We've got projects that are much smaller, projects that are much bigger.
It's a mix of us finding stories that we're really interested in and approaching filmmakers that we would love to work with, and then a mix of people coming to us with either an idea or a short story, whether that involves me as an actor or just me solely exec producing with Archie. It's really about offering a space for that and a platform for that. And I think it's 20 sounds crazy, but really like the reality is that not a lot of them at varying stages. So, 5 of those might just be a concept or an initial conversation or a book that we later want to work with.
I don't think 20 sounds crazy for people who know how production companies work. Yeah. But if you just say we're doing 20 films, but if some of them, are just an idea or something you want to option. Some of them you're talking to this person. Some of them have scripts, and some,
I would also probably say that a lot of we're sort of more film leaning. We've got a couple of TV, but film is what we love, so we've definitely got more of that. And then about Harris, I think the company is also trying to sit outside of him as an actor, and we really want to push that forward. So there are, a couple of projects that has him in, which we're developing with him. But outside of that, it's we potentially have a couple of projects going next year, that won't have Harris in.
Yeah. No, I think there are several different types of production companies that actors are involved with, and some of them are just really vanity projects where they just want to be able to get a producer credit, even if they're just an actor.
That is not us.
No, that is not what you're doing here. And, how involved... where are you finding some of those voices? You mentioned like some people come to you, some people you find. Are you looking at like cool YouTube videos to see if somebody's got something up there? Are you scouting at film schools? Or is it sort of trickling through agents and sort of normal ways to you?
It comes everywhere, really. I mean, we get certain submissions, agents put people forward, watching things at festivals like this, which is really important, and to have certain conversations. You might mention someone or a film that you love, and then we're intrigued by it. So it comes in many different ways.
We have a creative exec called Daisy as well, who's unbelievable reader and like a rapid absorber of content. So she's just someone who's got a really keen eye on everything going on from like short level all the way up until like second, third, fourth time features. So yeah.
So it could be really established. I mean, do you have any idea of budget levels that you will work within?
I mean, at the moment, we'll probably do anything all the way from 1.2, 1.5, all the way up to 30, 40, 50 million.
Okay.
So there's quite a range.
That's quite a range.
Yeah.
Good. I'm also just wondering, you're sort of genre agnostic, I guess. I mean, if somebody has a really interesting horror film, might that interest you? That's not what Urchin is, but...
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for Archie, but I don't think we're like avid like horror people, are we? No, and that's okay. Like, it's obviously a very attractive genre for a lot of
lucrative,
illustrious. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like if a great horror came along and we were intrigued by it, we would for sure like entertain it, but it's not necessarily what we're going out and looking for.
Yeah. But if Guillermo del Toro wants to come make some kind of cool fantasy horror with you, why
sure.
not?
Don't know if he'd come to us, but sure.
Yeah. What do you think you're doing differently, or is that hard to quantify? I mean, it does feel like in the UK, and it's probably true in Spain as well, there's a sort of new generation of production companies coming through that aren't the sort of well-established of, 16 films, number 9, some of those older generation. And I don't want to be ageist here. But yeah, do you feel like there's something you're doing that's kind of disruptive to the industry, or you're just simply kind of doing it in a normal way, but with your voices?
Well, I think there's a lot of production companies in the UK that have stood the test of time for good reason with bigger classic tentpole cinema films, and they've kind of been the bread and butter of the industry in a sense, the working titles or the the heydays, and there's absolutely we have the utmost respect for that. But I think it is harder as a smaller, younger company, and I think inevitably that kind of makes us unique in our own way, and unique in the fact that it is us and it's personal, and it's our own perspective on things. But it seems a little arrogant to sit here and say we're
tearing the walls down.
We're like anarchic in our approach, and we're smashing the door, because we're also not. That's not who we are as people. We're trying to work with people and be respectful, and not like. It's not how you. Yeah, it's not how you go about things. So.
As I mentioned before, you're not Nepo babies. I mean, Harris, you have a certain level of attention as an actor, but it doesn't mean you're coming from a family worth millions with stately homes. And how hard is it to start a production company? Just as two guys who are, had great experience, both of you, but you hadn't quite done this before. Did people want to give you a shot? Was it a fight to say we're here and we want to do this and we need a little bit of money to do it?
It was definitely, I mean, when I made the decision to leave and then set up the company, it was incredibly difficult.
Yeah. It's risky.
And it's very risky, and I think there isn't much support for as many producers we would probably hoped, and I think, there isn't also much money available. And I think getting independent films financed is becoming more increasingly hard, and I think, it's difficult. So, yeah. I
think the reality of it is, it's like very. Like I know that Archie, after he left, not to speak like too much about your journey, but I know that was an extremely hard period where he had to like go out on his own and without any support, and that's like something I really admired, and like, putting his own like monthly savings into it is it's not.
That's a very lonely journey too, when you're just on your own.
And I think we got lucky with our financier who helped close the gap on Urchin.
Was that Tricky Knot?
That was Tricky Knot, and so we got support from those guys.
Tricky Knot's speaking at our Creative Investors Conference.
Oh, cool.
On either Tuesday or Wednesday, back here at Tabacalera, Alexandra.
Yeah. So, we got lucky with that, but it doesn't mean that the hard work goes. And I think, if anything, it means you have to work like twice as hard in order to like make that money back, because it's not free money. And
for about 5 minutes you think, oh great, we have money,
We're
and then
it's like, no,
and then they're like, so
this
when's
is a loan.
When's the first check coming in?
And how have you found, I've heard Harris speak about this, I think, about sort of a soul-destroying trip to Cannes, not this year, where Urchin had its world premiere and went down a storm, but a few years ago when you two were going around sort of pitching Urchin to people, and you just get, these sort of like tax shelter guys maybe, and they're just glazing over and they don't really care about the creative intention. How was it trying to get Urchin made and to get people believing in your voice as a filmmaker?
I'll paint a picture of what that trip was like. There was we were there for 6 days. It was me, Archie, and Scott O'Donnell, our other amazing producer, and we were in Cannes. It was 2022 or 2022, and we were there every day. We had around six meetings a day, and it was like half an hour meetings or an hour meetings of me just pitching the film to execs or financiers or money people, and just doing it over and over and over to people that didn't really care, or that were like hungover. You know what I mean? At one point I looked over and there was a guy with sunglasses on, and he was just like, what? Woke up, and I felt sorry for Scott and Archie for having to sit and listen to me, pour my heart out. And I was like, really the most salesman I've ever been, Picture this now, it's like, but you have to get behind your thing, and you have to really. You have to.
But it's hard to do that 18 times in a row.
It is. But do you know what? It's to me, it's like a small price to pay.
Yeah, to
Because
get
to
it
make
made.
films is like such a privilege, and it's like there's a huge amount of money involved, even on a small budget. We're talking big figures, and it's like beyond what I ever thought I would be like dealing with as a child entering this industry. I'm sure you agree, but it's like it's just a part of it. It's just a part of it. It's inevitable. Doesn't make it easy, but it's definitely like I think what people want to know is that you are the person to tell the story,
Yeah.
right? And if people aren't convinced of that, and if we've never done it before, people are very skeptical, and rightfully so, you know.
And I think people get skeptical when actors try to move into the director's
Of course,
chair.
and I understand why. Yeah, I
but-
understand why.
In a way, you've been on more sets than any of us, so why wouldn't you know what to do, what you want to do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
not every
a lot
actor
of the
wants
time
to
just
direct
go
or
back
can
to the
direct.
trailer, don't they?
Yeah,
So,
okay.
but no, you're absolutely right. I've been really lucky. Spent a lot of time on sets, and yeah.
As I promised, I'm not going to spoil what happens in Urchin, but I do want us to sort of at least say what it's about and a little bit about the making of it. So it's about a guy who's a rough sleeper, kind of in and out of homelessness, has problems with criminality, sometimes with drugs or addiction. And just first of all, why was that? Because when I first heard this, I was like, Harris Dickinson, you know, hey, baby girl, yes, triangle, I get it. But I didn't know that you have a real personal connection in working with homeless populations in London. Why was this the story you were so passionate to tell as your first feature? You know, this really puts a mark of what's something you care about deeply.
I do, yeah. It's a issue I'm still like very much invested in. I feel saddened by it and energized to try and do anything I can. But I mean, ultimately, like stepping away from the social issues of it, I think there was people in my life growing up that dealt with various different dependencies and like habitual behaviour that had kind of fascinated me. And I know that Archie had similar experiences. So it's like working during that first lockdown, I felt really confused and annoyed at the government, and I didn't really know how to make. I think like probably a lot of people, there's issues in the world and we feel a bit helpless what to do, and you can sit there and shout about it online, or you can go to a rally or a march and like mobilize locally. But I started working with this charity that do a lot of amazing work in East London with individuals on a really like specific localized level, like going out on the streets, looking after people, providing support. And then, I don't know, it kind of started to make me think about the wider picture of it, and then how do we find a story about the individual and not make it too much about the institution. And then I just had a really amazing 2 or 3 years researching that world, and spent a lot of time with people in various different fields, prison reform, probation, and mental health specialists. And I don't know, it just became something that I kind of had to say. And that's not me like claiming to be at all an expert. I still am very much a outsider, but I feel a connection to it.
Yeah. We see it in the film, and I think you'll see it. And Archie, can you I think we always ask the director, why is this a story you want to tell? Why was it a story you wanted to spend years of your life also telling?
I think it was from the very early conversations with Harris. I think it was just his passion around it and wanting to tell the story. And I'd seen a very early version of a script that kind of had a different story, and it was about 2 lives. And I think, it just, seeing Harris transition from that actor into the director was really intriguing. And I think, just seeing his passion and ambition for it was incredibly exciting.
I forced him, basically.
Okay, good.
He really did.
It worked.
Yeah. No, I'm joking.
Just begged him continuously.
I'm really not going to ruin it, but it's sort of in a social realist tradition that we see of very authentic stories set in Britain. And Britain is the home of this social realist cinema in many ways. But it goes somewhere else, and it goes somewhere unexpected. And I'm wondering, was that hard to explain to people, that there it's not just a kitchen sink drama. Was that part of the pitch, I guess, you had to do? And did people understand that, or did you have to show them?
No, I mean, I think it was, there was a lot of convincing needed, especially when we were in those early stages of looking for finance, and even internally it was a very tricky conversation to try and explain that more surreal stuff and the more abstract imagery in the film. But I think it helped. I think it helped the fact that people liked the departure from a more traditional format.
That we've seen more
that
of.
we've seen more of. But it was something that, in my mind, was a necessary part of the film, and you'll see when you guys watch it that, you know, it still respects the form.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have drunk too much coffee and I need a wee. Can I run and do that?
You can
and
run
you
and
ask
do.
him a
You're
few
allowed.
questions.
'Cause
I'll be back in 2 minutes.
the other option is not going to be anything
not
we
gonna be
won't
good.
capture it on camera. So, yes, Archie.
Ask me any questions you want about Harris, and I will tell you.
Yeah. What's he really like?
Thank God he's left.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about setting up this shoot? Because you shot a lot of locations, a lot on the street of East London. Also, you shot, when you see the film, you'll see there's a sort of hotel restaurant where the main character is working, and Harris actually worked
He did for
in
many
this
years.
place.
Yeah.
What was it like? Because obviously this is a film that didn't have a limitless budget. This is not Barbie. And I'm sure even Barbie has to, you know, stay ingrained.
Even though Barbie was probably 20 times the amount, it was still tough.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But how do you plan sort of logistics of shooting? Also with maybe people, you've got lots of, I don't know if they're extras or just people on the street passing through. And like, how did you plan this shoot? And what did you learn about that?
I mean, it took a lot of prep. You know, the film we made for very little money. It was just shy of $3 million. And we shot over 38 locations over 28 days. It was a brutal shoot, and a lot of the days were nights. There were some days where we had like 8 locations, and we would lose locations at like 2 a.m, and Harris would be like, well, where are we shooting next? So I think, you know, we almost had a plan A, plan B, and a plan C. And everything had to be mapped out for the whole shoot. And I think, you know, back to that family aspect, like even when we did lose that location in the morning, it's like we come together and we really, thank you, we group together and you know, find the best solution.
Yeah, you just sort of had to roll with whatever life is throwing at you that day. We're just talking about the shoot and how they even shot in this restaurant, the hotel that you used to work in, and yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, and like even finding the locations, you know, we really wanted it to feel London, but not the London that a lot of people know. Like we wanted it to feel quite different. And I think, you know, even when you did find the hotel, you suddenly called me one day and were like, I know where we're going to film. The hotel I worked in, which wasn't a hotel anymore. So we had to kind of...
You have to sort of set dress it.
We had to set dress it.
Completely redecorate.
I mean, we walked in and there was like water pouring through the ceiling and like this, it mold on all the floors.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of work that went into it.
Yeah. And Harris, what do you think you learned directing your first feature? I mean, you could probably write a book, but, you know, is there something that springs to mind that you hadn't learned on the shorts, or just something you're thinking about differently?
I think probably understanding the correct kind of leadership, and because I knew that, of course, film is a utter collaboration and it's a group project, but you are ultimately the one that people are looking to for decisions.
People want you to make a decision for them sometime, or with them, or somebody's got to say yes or no.
Yeah, and I think there's the tricky thing of like, okay, of course, everything is a conversation, but at the end of the day, if you don't agree with something, there's no way you can betray that. You have to be truthful to your ultimate sort of desire or decision, and I think that can be tough when we're talking about ideas, because ideas are so personal, and when you've got a group of individuals offering up things, and it's delicate. It's a really delicate sort of thing. Same with actors. It taught me a lot about actors because, of course, I didn't really have that insight about myself or people I'd worked with, but being on the other side of it for a long time and having so many different people come in. I mean, we had so many different roles in the film. I wrote too many characters. You know what I mean? I wrote so many people into the film that each day we had someone new coming on, and it was a new energy and a new process that I was trying to sort of deal with, and that taught me a lot about actors. Yeah.
Did anybody, especially money people, try to say, you know what, we could sell this film even more if Harris stars in it? You have a small role. You really didn't want to. I don't even think you wanted to do the small role, from what I understood.
Archie wanted to do it, but
I am in the next film.
Me too. No, I'm not either. But why was it important for you not to take the lead role? And I have to say, when you see his performance, Frank Delane, in this film, is a revelation. I didn't know his work that well. I'd seen him in some small stuff, but this is a sort of career-defining to the next level role for him. So why did you not want to do it? Why did you stick to your guns? How did you find Frank?
yeah, I mean, no one really suggested I do it. I don't even think it was part of the conversation. There was like sort of an early maybe but I think we all knew immediately it was a bad idea, and I sort of, Frank was someone who came in and turned the role into something so lived in and so nuanced, and it was everything we were looking for. And he's the kind of actor that is just brave with his decisions. He's willing to fall and try stuff, and just someone that you only wish for for this kind of film. And you know, I knew immediately that I wouldn't be able to direct and act. I mean, it was hard even just doing it on a small level for those scenes, but we had an actor drop out for the role that I played about a week before, and I didn't necessarily feel comfortable bringing someone on with such short notice that didn't fully understand the world, and that kind of, I don't know, it felt a bit tricky to try and expect an actor to take on all of this, you know, the understanding of this community, and so I just said I might just do it myself, you know, out of ease. And then
Also Frank said that he would almost prefer that you did it because you have the understanding of the script and the world, and you'd want to have that relationship through it.
Well, we were already rehearsing those scenes because I was reading all of the other roles in the film to help, and then when it got to that point, it did feel like a kind of, it made sense, but it was hard, and I don't think I would do it again because there was moments where I was really in two zones, trying to rely on other people to tell me what was wrong, not just with my performance, but with the whole frame, you know? What's the person in the background doing? What's the lamp doing? You know, and I just think I needed to be really
You could focus on
focused
being
on
a
it.
director.
Yeah,
You need
yeah,
to.
yeah. And I admire people that do it. I admire, you know, Cassavetes and Fassbinder and Bradley Cooper. You know, it's like I'm really impressed by it because it's hard.
Were there references you kept bringing up? Because Harris is a huge cinephile. He doesn't like me to say that word, but watch his video in the Criterion Closet, and it's very worldly view of cinema, expanded horizons of cinema. So were there certain references that you had in mind when you were talking to your DOP, even to the actors, for about tone, or just were there references that you were actively thinking about for Urchin?
I mean, there were lots. I mean, we kind of whittled it down to about 8 films that we screened for the cast and the crew before, and it wasn't necessarily like I don't know if I agree with being like, hey, this is the film, you know, we're trying to make this or we're trying to do that, but it was like, let's show some films that have popped up in my mind throughout the development, films that we'd spoken about, films that we enjoyed. There was some documentaries by an amazing British documentary filmmaker called Mark Isaacs. We screened some of his shorts and features, and then we screened Punch Drunk Love. We screened Manila in the Claws of Light, which is an amazing Lino Brocca film from the 70s, Filipino film. We screened Vagabond by Varda. We screened Nostalgia by Tarkovsky. We screened Lovers on the Bridge by Leos Carax. Anything else I'm missing? No, I think that's
a
it.
wild variety of films.
It was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun to watch them together.
Just to watch together and
sort of
discuss
remind
it.
people, because I think a lot of people work in film kind of, a lot of the time they're doing jobs that they're not necessarily, and it's totally, I've been there myself, that were not always like that invested in. It's also a career and a job and an amazing microcosm of its own. So I wanted to remind people, hey, we're here doing this very specific thing. We want to do something like high level, even though it's my first time. Like, let's try and aim high.
They were less as references and more as like, let's just watch something together, and certain
Be in the same room together.
talk about them, and
yeah.
you know, it was every Wednesday at like 6 p.m. and we'd all finish a bit early, and then sometimes none of us would come up with anything, but it'd be a conversation point, and then other times like Kobe Costume would be like, oh, I noticed something there, and then he used that. So it was less of a reference and more of a conversation.
And how do you think Urchin, you might be a shrink self-diagnosed to know this, how do you think Urchin represents the kind of work Devisio is going to make or continue to make?
I think it's a really good first film for us, because I think it sort of shows the ambition that we're wanting to take and the sort of like boldness and taking risks. And I think, you know, it's a perfect platform for what we have coming. I wish I could share the kind of next things that are coming up, but I think it is a perfect platform for, those films that are in the pipeline.
It's also the amount of heart and time and true creative investment that we put into this film, you know, and we don't believe in being able to do that on a half measure. And so I think that kind of speaks to the way we want to carry on with everything that we work on, is being able to like give it our full love and attention and really push it, you know.
So you can't really tell us anything that's coming up, probably. No. Are you...
Boring.
Do you have some ideas for your next directorial project already? You don't have to tell us the ideas, but are you thinking, are you writing? You're a pretty busy guy.
Yeah. Do you know what? I had an idea, it was bad. Like when I finished the film, me and my partner went on holiday, and bear in mind it had been like, 8 months of the prep and then the shoot and then a little bit of post, and we had a little break where I went away, and she was like, right, you need to not work now. You're off for a second. And I was there, and she caught me, and I was writing. And I had another idea. I was like, I've got to write, start. So I did have an idea when I finished the film, and I couldn't help myself. And I think that's the problem is, now I've got a script, but who knows if it's good. We've got a long development to go with it, but...
You did say that you were going away for 7 days and that you're going to switch off, and then day 2 you texted saying, I've started writing again. Yeah.
And I just think there's been a lot of ideas I've had in my life, whatever, but not all of them grab you like that. And if one grabs you and it forces you to write, you can't put a stop on it.
No. And it's also sometimes you're in that really creative zone, and you're going to almost relax, and then your brain's saying, don't let this one go yet.
Yeah, it's annoying, but my brain doesn't really, it keeps throwing things at me in the middle of the night. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm excited to do it again. It's like, I just can't wait to be on set again doing something else.
Okay. I would love to hear some audience questions. I can barely see because of the lights. I'm assuming we might have a mic for the audience. And as a reminder, you can ask a question in Spanish or Basque, and they will translate it for us if you feel. So there's a question. That's the first hand I see.
Do we have to wear these?
This is tricky. I can repeat it if I can hear it.
We can share one. Plug it in case.
Sí, buenos días. Good morning, and thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3.
I apologize that our Spanish is so bad.
1, 2, 3. Testing. Can you hear me? I don't know. For me, it's 3. But Channel 3, I suppose. Can you hear me now? 3? Okay. 3. 1, 2, 3. There's a volume too. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Okay. Thank you very much indeed for coming. This conversation has been really interesting. Just a question. We have the impression in some way that today the new projects are big projects with big budgets, or very small projects with very tiny budgets, with new authors, festivals, and small circuits, or places like Tabacalera, the place where we are, for small projects. But this is a question maybe for Archie. Today, for you, what about authors' works, the mid-budget projects? Is there a place, is there space for mid or medium budget projects? Is it possible to have this medium budget for author type of works or cinema instead of just tiny or big products?
And very relevant.
I missed the first part, but I think I get
It's
the
like
gist.
either you can get a big film
Yes.
made, or
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're doing a tiny festival film, you get no money. So where's the middle ambition of like middle budget, quite ambitious, even with a new voice?
It's
Can we make
interesting you say
those?
that, because I think there's definitely now on what we're seeing just in terms of like financing films, there's definitely more room for those middle projects around the 7 up to 15. So I think there is more room at the moment for those films coming through, and that's also what we're trying to push forward. So I think it once was incredibly hard. I think we are seeing more strain around those smaller films because there's more risk. So I think those middle projects are sort of seeing a bit of a rise at the moment. But yeah, I think you're right in the sense that there is a lot of the bigger projects and a lot of the bigger money that's out there that's run by the studios, and there isn't much support for those. There's a small margin between what's smaller and what's medium, but I definitely think we're going to be seeing more mid films come through, and that's a kind of the conversations that we're having even with financiers. Weirdly, they would almost prefer to finance something at like 7, 8, 9 million than they would at 3 or 4, because there's less risk if they've got cast attached. So yeah, I think there's going to be a shift, personally.
Yeah. Harris, what's the budget for the next one for you? Going 20?
No, I honestly I feel like Archie might disagree, but I don't know if going bigger is always better.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's the right level for the story.
Yeah, it's like what, and also how do we keep money on screen? That's what I'm like concerned with. It's like making sure that the money is used in the correct way. And I know Archie's on the same level, and like we were so smart on our film. Even we managed to do a lot with the budget we had, and I think that's what it's not inflating it for unnecessarily. It's like justifying it for the right reasons.
Is there another hand up? There's one way back there, but if anybody with the mic is near a hand, just... Oh, thank you. Sorry, that one's a long way away. No. Was there a hand up there? Does somebody have a mic? Hand here? Okay, anybody with a mic.
Hello. Yeah, I was curious about like the acting, writing, and then you ended up, or directing, writing, and then you ended up acting in something like that. And you were saying it was a necessity in this process. But is that something that like you feel it could be a muscle you would flex again, just like when ideas come and there is a necessity that you would play a role like that, how to balance the director, actor, writer, and to be able to give your full weight to those roles?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a world in which I could write something and then hand it over to someone else to direct if I was going to star in it or something. But I don't see a world in which I can direct myself in something fully. Like, I just think it requires too much split thought and attention. I don't know if my brain is capable of it. Is the honest answer? You know, I really have to. I have to focus so hard. I know it doesn't not just sound like as if I'm a special case, but even when I'm at the monitor, like I get distracted so easily. I have to have like a sheet over my, like I have to have just the monitor in my vision. Otherwise I'm like, squirrel. You know what I mean? Otherwise I'm like, what's that?
Catering.
What was that? And then I'm like out of it. I'm so trying to do that and act is just not possible. Yeah.
Maybe in a few decades you'll want to try again. No,
Yeah,
maybe
cut to
not.
me like every frame of my next film. Yeah.
Is that the mic? I see a couple of hands over on this side. If we have a mic over there. Sorry, mic runner. You're getting good exercise today, Tabacalera.
Hi, Wendy. Harris was talking to you at one of the baby girl parties in Los Angeles last year, and it got me thinking afterwards. I mean, obviously, you're working with Nicole Kidman, who's a producer, and then for you, Archie, you've just been working with Margot Robbie. How much do you kind of pick their brains when you're with them? You know, because they both got their own production companies. Nicole told me she only has 2 people in her office, which seems crazy with the amount of turnover they have. So what are your conversations like when you work on the set with other people that are talent producers?
Yeah, well, Margot's company, Lucky Chap, is pretty big. We had them here last year. I mean, do you talk to them about how they juggle?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think, you know, with those bigger names, I mean, me personally, I don't know about you, but I tend to try and not have those conversations when I'm on set, but definitely off set, you know, we were in Telluride recently and Margot and Tom were there and we were having conversations about the industry and what we want to do. And I think, you know, we really want to collaborate with companies like Lucky Chap. So, you know, there is always a conversation to be had there. But for me personally, it tends to be offset and more in the social situations.
Yeah. It's hard to sort of try and derail someone, pick their brain in a way. I don't know, with Nicole, I didn't feel like you know, when you work with someone of that caliber, it takes a while before you can. I remember sort of like day 20, I was like, so what was Stanley Kubrick like? But, you know, you can't go in with that. You can't start with that. Yeah, you have to kind of get there slowly. Yeah.
But I think, yeah, they all have, I mean, Margot's company's obviously done incredibly well, so as much as we can, we try and pick their brains.
Do you call David Heyman?
I do.
Yeah. Or
Every
do you
so
have
often.
do you have people you call when you?
Jeremy Kleiner. He's my guy.
Okay. Yeah, great. Jeremy was here a few years ago, maybe next year. Was there another question up that side?
Hello. Sorry, I'm very nervous.
Don't be.
Well, we both very much like your movies, and we wanted to ask you a question to how to approach this industry, because it often feels like the only thing that we can do is to join a drama club or something. And can you please give us some advice on how to do so?
Do you want to be an actor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to, maybe.
Make YouTube videos. That's what you were saying at 13, right?
Make TikToks. No, I'm joking. Do you go to a drama school?
Well, yeah, not drama school, just like a local drama club.
What age are you guys?
14.
So that's secondary school, like towards the end of secondary school?
It's like here is kind of high school. It's not
Yeah.
high school. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Almost middle,
in
high
I
or
think
something.
in America it will be like freshman, but
Right.
I'm not sure.
Right. I think it's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to offer anything particularly new to this, but for me, it was like finding the community first, right? And finding the people that also had the interest in it, because then it felt like it became more of a possibility in a way. Like, then you don't need to ask permission. I think we're in a world where, unless you've come from the entertainment, family or whatever, there's a general rhetoric that it's a super hard, unrealistic profession, and the reality is that there are many opportunities within film, theatre, TV, commercials or music video, whether that's as an actor or a crew member. There are multiple trades within that field. So I just think it's about like surrounding yourself with it more as much as you can, and seeing lots of films and trying to see as much as you can. And then I think as you get to an age, you'll start to feel whether it's really something you want to commit your life to, because you have to love it, right? You have to love it with everything, because it isn't always straightforward. So just enjoy it for now, I suppose, and don't put too much pressure, maybe.
And I think also community is a big thing. Like, I think, we all have iPhones now, and I think get a group of friends and go make as much as you can.
Yeah.
I think that's really important too, and create that community and friends, and you should be behind the camera but also in front of the camera and see what you like and go from there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm sad to say we're out of time because you've got a very packed schedule, and we're trying to get him to surf. We're trying to carve out 10 minutes for Harris to surf. Final question I meant to ask at the start. What the heck does Devisio mean? And why is this the right name for you two as a company?
Does anyone want to guess? Should I say? Yeah. It's kind of a play on my dyslexia. We were in Portugal, and the sign for diversion is Devisio. And I saw the sign, and instead of saying Devisio, I went Devisio. And that sort of, that was it, really.
Okay. So you're doing you're going
So
a
it's an
slightly
idea-
different path with your own
With our
unique
own
take on
complexities
it.
and your own take on it, yeah.
Okay, I love it. Good luck, Devisio.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here in San Sebastian. These guys will be here at Tabacalera tonight at 7 p.m. And I hope some of you are coming because you'll be able to ask them questions about the film tonight once you have seen it. So please come and enjoy Urchin tonight. And thank you so much. Thanks for being a great audience.
Thank you, everyone.